Yeah, you know, that's, I'll probably get a smackdown for this, but I remember when I was a kid and, you know, was into rock and roll, you know, I started loving rock music as young as, like, being, you know, 3 years old. You know, I grew up with a father who was a rock and roll guy himself.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, and I was born in the early 70s, which was kind of like a good, you know, fertile period of having a lot of music around you. And, you know, we lived in Portsmouth, Virginia, a little blue-collar town in Tidewater, Virginia, and my dad and all of his buddies were long-haired rock and roll guys, you know, putting on Led Zeppelin records. Or,
wow, that's so cool.
That kind of thing. So, yeah. But at some point, you know, as like time went on, like in the 80s rolled around and everybody was really into Van Halen, I liked them a lot because of Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing, and I remember not being too crazy about David Lee Roth singing, and I know that I'm setting myself up for like a lot of, yeah, exactly. I've since changed my views on it and think he's a fantastic singer. I wouldn't have changed what he did. I wouldn't have wanted to hear anything differently with Eddie Van Halen. But I remember it was an adjustment for me because I was used to, like, you know, just these people in the 70s that put a lot of emphasis, like, on their vocals and, like, you know, their song craft with how they sang. And David was just kind of like the scat man, wild man, you know, with the band.
He was there.
Yeah, but it was just, they were amazing.
So what did you think when they got the other singer,
Sammy Hagar?
Sammy Hagar, who would probably, I mean, I know a lot of people talk about his voice, and I mean, I've never bought one of his albums. I'm not going to say I hate.
You know, I honestly was a Sammy Hagar fan.
He didn't do much for me.
Yeah,
and comparatively, I thought that, I mean, I get it that he's a much more this or that kind of singer than David Lee Roth, but I liked David Lee Roth just so much more.
I thought the music that they did with David Lee Roth was definitely superior. You know, I thought that their songwriting during around the time when Sammy was singing for them, you know, had some cool stuff, but, you know, it just didn't really have like that rawness and urgency and fun, you know, that the David Lee Roth era had.
Right.
I was one of those oddball kids, though, that really liked, Sammy Hagar had a record out at some point in the 80s during the MTV era called Voice of America. It had I Can't Drive 55 was on there.
That was huge.
Yeah. And I loved that stuff. So when he sang for Van Halen, I was like, oh, yeah, I can get behind this. But, yeah, like I said, you know, like it wasn't quite as raw and as rocking as what you were used to with the Diamond Dave era.
Have you ever heard his Scream compilations?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.